Paolo Banchero has been upgraded to questionable as we all expected. The aura is back in Orlando today on Locked On Magic.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And you are indeed Locked On Magic. Today is January 9th, 2025. My name is Philip Rossman-Reich. I'm the senior writer over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can follow me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD and on Blue Sky at PhilipRR. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, Paolo Banchero's upgraded to questionable, almost back on the court. We'll talk about the latest news, or at least as I'm recording this, the news you need to know on Paolo's return and how the team is feeling about finally having Banchero back in the fold. We'll get to all that coming up here in just a moment. First, we want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. No matter when you listen to us, whether it's first thing in the morning, whether it's right when we upload, we truly appreciate you making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. You can make Locked On Magic an even bigger part of your day with the Locked On Magic Daily Newsletter, the one stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com and start your day with the all-new free Locked On Magic Newsletter. Today's episode of Locked On Magic is sponsored by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Let's get the Band-Aid ripped off. Paolo Banchero was a full participant in the Orlando Magic's practice on Wednesday. We were later told that it was a bit of a lighter practice. The team is in a pretty heavy part of the schedule. They wanted to get in, work on some things, get moving, but didn't want to do anything too crazy. So definitely still some hurdles and still some steps for Paolo to go through to be back on the floor. But he is on the way. The Orlando Magic officially listed Paolo Banchero as questionable for Thursday's game against the Minnesota Timberwolves in his return to competition conditioning. Shams Charania of ESPN reports that Paolo Banchero is going to play in at least one of the two games this weekend. The Orlando Magic play a back-to-back. They play Minnesota on Thursday, Milwaukee on Friday. A source told Locked On Magic, as well as Orlando Magic Daily, that he is listed as questionable. His ability to play in the back-to-back will be dependent on how he recovers from being back at practice. The Magic are still going to take a very kind of slow approach. But regardless, this is the news we've been waiting for. This is the news the Magic have been waiting for. This is the news everybody's been waiting for. Paolo Banchero may not be back Thursday. It's happening soon. It's happening within the next 2 days. That feels very, very, very certain that Paolo Banchero will be back on the floor at least by Friday. We will see. It is tough to come back on a back-to-back. I don't think the Magic want him playing back-to-backs right off the bat, but he's upgraded to questionable. There is that chance that he will play Thursday, the first time that we can say that in more than 2 months. And this is obviously such a huge moment for this team. It is something this team has been looking forward to. It's something that Paolo has been looking forward to. And we obviously talked a lot about that yesterday. Banchero, in 5 games to start the season, was having truly an all-NBA type season, averaging 29 points per game, 8 rebounds per game, and 5.6 assists per game, including his 50-point effort against the Indiana Pacers. He's still 4th in All-Star voting, by the way, which tells you the kind of popularity he might have as now he gets back onto the floor. But let's reset everything a little bit. Take a deep breath, exhale, realize that this is going to be a process to return. Just because Paolo Banchero is back does not mean that Paolo Banchero is back. And the Magic completely understand that. This is going to be one step at a time. Jamal Mosley said after practice on Wednesday that there will be a transition period. They're not expecting, and nobody on the team is expecting Paolo to jump right back into the fold and deliver the kind of crazy performances he was delivering. As Kentavious Caldwell-Pope joked, Paolo's going to have to fit in with us. We kind of got our own thing going. Now, granted, the Magic's offense is not particularly good, and Paolo will be a big boost to that, as we talked about yesterday. But Paolo's going to need some time to get his feet under him. Now, I've talked to Paolo a few times before during the course of this injury. And he said, one of the good things is he said his legs feel pretty good. It's been a lot of upper body kind of patience, not being able to do a lot, not being able to run, but he's, I think, been able to kind of keep his conditioning using leg exercises as about as well as he could. And so again, we will see. He's probably going to be on a tacit minute restriction early on as he kind of gets himself back into the flow of things. The Magic are obviously going to get a lot out of Banchero being back. And the Magic know he makes this team dangerous. He makes this team that much better. Goga Bitadze said he is unstoppable. One-on-one, no one can stop him. And really the biggest adjustment the Magic are going to have to make over the next few weeks when Paolo is back into the mix is the biggest adjustment they're really going to have to make is really more about being in the right spots and understanding where Paolo is going to be looking as he gets double teamed. The Magic haven't had anyone that really merits a double team since Franz Wagner's injury. And like Franz learned very quickly how to handle the double teams that Paolo handles on a nightly basis. Again, just think about what that's going to be like. The bottom line is this. Everybody is ecstatic to have Paolo Banchero back, even just in practice. It's a little bit more excitement in the building, a little bit more energy in the building. Goga Bitadze frankly said the guy has an aura. The guy just oozes like confidence and coolness and composure. And the Magic don't want him to change. If anything, like Paolo's going to hate that I devoted 2 episodes, and I'm not devoting all of today's episode to Paolo Banchero. He's going to hate that we're devoting so much time to him coming back. He just wants to play. Like he is, having talked to him, I talked to him 2 weeks ago. He just seemed eager to play again. That he was, when he was informed that on the official injury report that he was updated to return to competition conditioning, he was like, his eyes lit up at that. Like he was like, oh, that means I'm really close. Like he told us he is completely healed at that point. But he lit up because he knows he is that much closer to playing. We could see on the Instagram post, definitely teasing the news that we were going to get today, that yes, the wait is almost over. That Paolo Banchero is almost back into the fold. So again, don't get your hopes up that all-star, superstar Paolo Banchero is coming immediately back the moment he steps on the floor. That's not how this works. But do be excited that Paolo Banchero is indeed back. That he is going to be playing and going to be back in the fold, back to getting his playing rhythm back. And yes, eventually getting back within the next week and a half, 2 weeks, however long it is, next 10 games, back to being superstar Paolo Banchero. It's exciting, it's great, and it's amazing. Just might need a little bit of patience because he is questionable. And I will remind everyone that questionable means questionable. That does not mean he is fully back. The Magic are at least questionable to me on the scale of what injury designations mean. Questionable means he's 50-50. As Shams reported, it does sound like he is going to play one of these next 2 games, either Thursday or Friday. We'll find out which one it is, but it's going to be one of them. More likely than not, it's going to be one of them. We'll get to see Paolo Banchero back in a Magic uniform very, very soon. Of course, a lot of players have had to step up in the moment for Paolo Banchero in his absence. We'll talk about what Jalen Suggs looked like in the spotlight, also update his injury as well. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. I love going to live events, whether it's sports, music, theater, or comedy. And one of my favorite memories this year was really trying to go to more concerts, whether I was trying to trek down to Epcot for their festival concerts, whether I was going to Creed at the Kia Center, my first stadium concert in a long time, whether it was going to like the Two Towers in concert at the Dr. Phillips Center. I love live music, and I'm glad that I'm trying to make it a part of my life. Well, as I'm trying to find concerts in my area that might be interesting to me, I can look at all the advertising boards. I see the Kia Center advertisements all the time since I'm in that building. I can go someplace so much easier. Game Time has now made it even easier to get tickets to your favorite events with their new feature Game Time Picks. This feature filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. In fact, if you click on the event you want to go to, you'll get a map of the arena, and you'll even see like little flames telling you which tickets are hottest at the best price on the app itself. And Game Time has so many great last-minute deals to get you in if you decide to go to a show or game or concert or whatever on a whim. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA. That's LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Today's episode of Locked On Magic is also brought to you by Rocket RX. If you're ready to boost your confidence and take control in the bedroom, Rocket RX has the solution. Imagine feeling more prepared and performing at your best. Rocket RX makes it simple and stress-free. Rocket RX offers FDA-approved treatments for erectile dysfunction at a lower cost than branded alternatives. No more uncomfortable doctor visits or pharmacy trips. Everything is delivered straight to your door in discreet, plain packaging. With Rocket RX, you'll get trusted care from a real U.S. clinical team. Complete a quick 100% online consultation, and you could get your free prescription today. Visit rocketrx.com to get started now. It only takes 2 minutes. Right now, our listeners can get 40% off your first order when you use code LOCKEDONNBA. That's rocketrx.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for 40% off your first order. Terms and conditions apply. Rocket RX, better sex made simple. You've probably heard me say this a million times. No player has suffered more from Paolo Banchero's absence than Jalen Suggs. Jalen Suggs has been one of the Magic's best players all year. And he has been asked to take on more and more and more responsibility as more and more players go down. And as everyone's noted, this is opportunity. Like, yes, the Magic aren't going to accomplish all of their goals and win in the playoffs without Paolo and Franz. They need those two guys. And as everyone asks me what the Magic should do at the trade deadline, I say, well, first off, the biggest acquisition the Magic are going to make at the trade deadline is Franz Wagner. Second off, I would also tell them that, look, at the end of the day, for the Magic to go from where they're at as the 4 seed to championship contender is Paolo and Franz getting better. Not just healthy, but better. And again, we saw hints of them doing that. Jalen Suggs is a big part of that too. And part of this period where Paolo is out, and certainly Franz has been out, has been really asking Jalen Suggs to take on more. When the Magic drafted Jalen Suggs, we all thought, I certainly thought this. I know I said this. You could go back to my archives and see that I said this. Jalen Suggs was the best guard prospect the Orlando Magic had drafted since Penny Hardaway. I still believe that, but obviously he's a tier or two below what Penny ultimately was as an all-NBA player. Jalen Suggs is still very, very capable. And what we saw over the last month since Franz Wagner's injury is what Jalen Suggs looks like with that spotlight. It had its moments. Let's be very clear about that. It absolutely had its moments where Suggs really stepped up. For the season, Suggs is averaging a career-high 16.4 points per game. Give him a ton of credit for that. Adding 4.1 rebounds and 3.7 assists per game. Expectedly, because his usage is so high, and again, because Paolo's not in the game, he's shooting 41% from the floor and 31.2% from three. Cost of increased usage. Since Franz Wagner's injury, leaving Jalen Suggs as the Magic's main creator and star, he is averaging 18.6 points per game on 16.1 field goal attempts per game. He's shooting 41% from the floor and has a superstar level usage rate of 33.3%. That means 1 in every 3 possession that Suggs is on the floor ends with Suggs taking a shot or Suggs turning it over. He has been everything for this team. And he knows it. As he said, this last month has kind of shown him a little bit of what Paolo and Franz go through and how they have to prepare for games and deal with defenses targeted at them. How you have to kind of manage your emotions and carry the day. And Suggs has been wildly up and down. Yes, he carried the team through that 32-point game against the Milwaukee Bucks. Yes, he took over the fourth quarter against the Phoenix Suns, had big moments and big plays in several games. But yes, he has 3.3 turnovers per game since Wagner's injury. Yes, he still seems to be trying to play too fast and still trying to do too much. Yes, he lets his emotions get the better of him at times. And you see the downside of him being so emotional and so invested in every moment in every game. He takes every loss hard, and with all this responsibility heaped on him, it feels a lot more like he takes them even harder. Suggs is still an incredibly special player, though. Suggs is still someone that we have a lot of respect for, that we know is the heartbeat of this team. And if the lesson that comes out of this last month is, okay, Jalen Suggs isn't a number one option, but now we know you can sprinkle that in here and there, that if he has it going, he can do what he did against Milwaukee or Phoenix and take over those games. And we knew this already, he has the mindset and the attitude of and the fearlessness of taking that last shot. He takes those losses hard, but he moves on from them pretty quickly too. Jalen Suggs may not be the guy who's your superstar player. And again, we've kind of known that through 3-4 years of this now. But he is not someone who shies away from that spotlight either. He is not someone who is afraid to take on that bigger role when it comes to him. And like so many other things that have happened with all these injuries, A, now the Magic know that. And B, now he's experienced it and knows what he needs to improve to be more of what this team needs. Obviously, guys are going to start slotting back into their regular roles and the regular rotation. We'll see what Agoga Bitadze looks like with that starting group with Paolo in there. We will see maybe Jalen Suggs return to getting the spot-up opportunities he was getting before. With Paolo Banchero in the lineup, Jalen Suggs was a spot-up machine. In the 5 games with Banchero, he shot 42.5% on 8 3-point attempts per game. He made 53.1% of his 6.4 catch-and-shoot 3-point attempts per game. Since Wagner's injury, Suggs is shooting 30.4% on 6.9 3-point attempts per game. So he's still taking a ton of threes, but only 25.9% on 2.7 catch-and-shoot 3-point attempts per game. That's more than half of what he was shooting with Paolo. The quality of Jalen Suggs' shots are going to go up when Paolo and Franz are back in, and he slots back in to that third guy role or that supporting guy in certain lineups. Having said that, now we know what Suggs looks like when he has the ball in his hands. Now, Suggs maybe has a better understanding of what he needs to do when the ball is in his hands. And that's going to make him a better player. Now, the Magic will have to wait for Jalen Suggs to return. Unlike Paolo Banchero, Jalen Suggs is already listed as out. He is still dealing with the low back strain that kept him out of the game of the last 2 games since the injury against the Raptors on Friday. Jamal Mosley did say Jalen Suggs was back in the training center in the facility on Wednesday, but he was just kind of moving around a little bit, getting treatment. He wasn't on the floor. He's not playing basketball quite yet. I would anticipate that Jalen Suggs will be out for the rest of the week. I think they need to give him the week. I don't see him playing in either game of the back-to-back. Maybe he's back in time for Sunday's game against Philadelphia, but a little bit of rest would go a long way because we know how hard this kid plays. Jalen Suggs has spent a lot of time in the spotlight over the last month, and he has gotten a lot out of it. And there's obviously still a lot more room for him to grow. Part of all the absences has created opportunity for some players, whether it's Tristan da Silva, whether it's Jalen Suggs, or whether it's Jett Howard. Let's talk a little bit about what Jett Howard's been doing with his minutes because he has taken some critical steps. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by Ultimate College Basketball HC. I want to take a moment and introduce you to the brand new mobile game that I'm really excited about, Ultimate College Basketball HC. If you've ever dreamed of being a college basketball head coach, this is your chance to step into those shoes. In Ultimate College Basketball HC, you control every detail of your program, from recruiting players and hiring coaching staff to overseeing training camps, handling NIL deals, and managing scholarships all in your hands. And when it comes to game time, you get to draw offensive plays and set your strategy. The way you play won't just affect the current season, it will shape the future of your school's basketball program. It's a game that lets you feel the full weight of what it means to be a head coach and lead your team to glory. Here's a special offer for Locked On NBA listeners. Use promo code LOCKEDONCBB, all caps, inside the game store to get a free boost for your program. It's a perfect way to kickstart your coaching career. To download Ultimate College Basketball HC, just visit ultimate-cbb.com or look it up in the app stores. Ultimate College Basketball HC, begin your coaching legacy today. Everything in this game is about opportunity. Everyone talks about you need to get a rhythm, you need to kind of find your groove, and it takes a few minutes to find your groove as a shooter. It takes a few games to find your groove with the lineup. And unfortunately for Jett Howard in his second season, the opportunity has had its ups and downs. I think the Magic have tried to get him playing time and tried to get him minutes and tried to kind of force him in there a little bit. And Howard has had his ups and downs. Most of his scoring has happened in garbage time. I think that's kind of a running joke among Magic fans, but Jett Howard is starting to find his way. Again, we've had about a month now with Franz Wagner out and this rotation and it to its varying degrees. Jett Howard is starting to kind of show us who he can be. And the last two games specifically really highlighted what he can bring to the table. Against the Utah Jazz, he scored a career-high 21 points on 7 for 16 shooting, making 4 of 10 three-pointers. Now, again, struggled a little bit throughout the game, made a couple threes early, kind of faded in the background a little bit, made some shots late when the game was already decided, but kept playing hard. And look, his three-point shooting is a real thing. He's a volume shooter. He's looking to shoot. Really good shooter. It was his game against the New York Knicks, though, that was really intriguing. The fact that he followed up a 21-point game with a 9-point game where he shot 4 for 7, 1 for 3 from 3. And I would point out that means he was 3 for 4 on 2-point field goals. So he was taking a lot of 2-point field goals. If they were top blocking him, he was cutting into the paint, hitting some quick dribble pull-ups, and making shots around the basket. On top of all this, against Utah, he had 4 assists. The promise of Jett Howard has always been this kind of belief that he could be multifaceted. That the reason that Magic picked him was because of his size and because they believed he fit their identity better than the other shooters. Grady Dick would have been the other choice in that instance, but they felt like he could give them the versatility that they typically like from their draft picks. Now, obviously, that hasn't come to fruition yet, but we see flashes of it in little moments, like the game against the Jazz on Sunday. It was a little moment. It was a little thing, but it felt much bigger. It felt more like the potential that he has. And the fact that when Jett talked to us after the game on Sunday, he didn't seem enamored with his 21-point effort. He acknowledges that he needs to be better on defense. And look, he's not a good defender yet. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that he is, but you can see and feel him try. He has gotten a lot better as a defender over the last season and a half with the Magic than he was in college. And that progress is maybe not all you can ask for, but it is a big part of what you can ask for. Over his last 4 games, I'm going to throw out his scoreless game against the Nets. Over his last 4 games, he's playing 16.6 minutes per game. He's averaging 11 points per game. Again, 21-point effort, big outlier. 9 points against the Pistons, 5 points against the Raptors, 21 against the Jazz, 9 points against the Knicks. A little bit of consistency there. He's shooting 46.9% from the floor on 8 field goal attempts per game and 33.3% from 3 on 4.5 attempts per game. There's still work to do. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. But as he gets more consistent minutes, as he establishes a role, he gets comfortable. And you can see now that he looks a little more comfortable that he can begin to build consistent games. He can begin to build, these are where my shots are going to come from. This is how I can be involved and help my team. And frankly, like again, I'm not sitting here advocating Jett Howard should be starting over Caleb Houston. I'm not sitting here arguing Jett Howard should get rotation minutes when everybody's healthy. But he is taking advantage of this opportunity. He is making you pause and think. He is earning more within where the Magic are at right now. And that is ultimately a positive thing. That's what you want a young player to do. To step up when they're being asked to step up. And hopefully, like for at least a little while longer, Jett's likely to continue getting minutes. When the Magic feel they need a three-point spark, they'll turn to Jett Howard because they know he is A, never afraid to shoot, and B, does not need a lot of space to get a shot off. And now we're starting to see him be more confident within what the Magic are trying to do. Just like I said, just like we saw with Tristan da Silva, it took a little while for him to get going and to find his legs in the NBA. Jett Howard has never really played meaningful minutes in the NBA before this little run with Franz out. Let me expand the data set here. Since Franz Wagner's injury, Jett Howard is averaging 11.9 minutes per game, 12 games, shooting with 6.1 points per game, shooting 30.6% from 3. You can see it took Jett a little while to get his legs under him, to get comfortable. I think we're starting to see that. And I would hope that Jett will continue to get opportunity because I think he is taking advantage of it. But unfortunately, there are realities. The minutes may dry up. There are players the Magic trust. They trust Caleb Houston's defense. They trust Tristan da Silva a lot right now. There's going to be a lot of competition. But I think this run shows what Jett can be and can continue to build to be as this season and his career continue. That's good, dude, for me today, though. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. Of course, follow me on Twitter at @PhilipR_OMD. Find me on Blue Sky at PhilipRR. You can subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Himalaya, Google Play, Spotify, Odyssey, and all information on podcasts to your podcast-enabled device. You can find us on YouTube as well. Just search for Locked On Magic. For the latest on the Orlando Magic, be sure to check out OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can find us on Twitter at @OMagicDaily. And for even more Orlando Magic content, be sure to check out the my Patreon page, the Orlando Magic Hub, at patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub. Right now, pinned to the top is my video breaking down the Orlando Magic's play in late game situations over the last few weeks. What that reveals about the Orlando Magic's offense. Dive into the playbook over at the Orlando Magic Hub at patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub. As always, thank you for your support. As if all that's not enough, your favorite podcast now has a newsletter. Introducing the Locked On Magic Daily Newsletter, the one-stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com. And start your day with the all-new free Locked On Magic newsletter. That's going to do it for me today, though. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. We'll be back tomorrow to recap the Magic's game against the Minnesota Timberwolves. But until then, for Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic, this has been Philip Rossman-Reich. We'll see you all again next time for another episode of Locked On Magic.